Alright, Victorum Gaming fans and Hail Caesar fans, we're back covering another faction today, so we are moving right along. We just covered the Assyrians in a previous video. Now we're going to take a look at what's called the Neo Babylonians, so roughly 7th and 6th centuries BC. So if you're not familiar with them, definitely do some research. There's plenty of good documentaries out there on that time period and the Babylonians themselves. You might look at like Nebuchadnezzar, probably a name you're familiar with, maybe not the like the other guy here, Nabopolassar, but really cool list too. And again, in an earlier video we took a look at sort of the original Babylonians. This is again a much later list as far as time period is concerned. So let's take a look at how things have maybe changed a little bit. Again, another fun faction to collect, and really, for the most part, you can reuse a lot of your previous Babylonian models and stuff like that. So it's not something that you would have to like collect from scratch necessarily if you've already played the earlier Babylonians. But moving on, cavalry and chariots up to a quarter of the army, infantry 75% or more. And again, skirmishers don't count. You do have to have at least one unit of what's called Babylonian Kisir. We'll see that in a second. And then the usual division and skirmisher restrictions there. So in contrast to the Assyrians, not nearly as complicated on some of the restrictions here. But as we see now, cavalry is becoming more and more a feature of armies as opposed to just a little sort of footnote with access to like a one scout unit. So cavalry are definitely, as we move forward in time here, becoming more and more of a thing. So moving right along, what do the Neo Babylonians give us here? So, well, we have that Kisir infantry unit there that we have to have at least one of. And again, it's a rock solid medium infantry here, 6 and 6 with some solid, excellent range, really. Short and long. Morale save of 5 for 26 points. No special rules, but, spears and bows. A really good combination of things here. So, then you have medium infantry armed with spears and bows. You can only have one unit of those, which is basically the same thing. I really wish they would have maybe differentiated things a little bit here. And they're also exactly the same point cost. So again, I feel like something should have been changed here a little bit. You only get one of that medium infantry unit if you want it, but you're forced to have at least one Kisir unit. So I don't know why you wouldn't just take nothing but the Kisir units. It's exactly the same unless I am missing something here, but I don't think I am. So then you get Sabshari or Chaldean light infantry with mixed spears and bows. So 5 and 5 on the clash and sustain there, so a little bit weaker. Again, they're light infantry, but still the same ranged ability, a little bit weaker on the morale save, but also a little bit cheaper on the points cost. So, depending on how your points are shaking out, if you are okay with a little bit weaker combat ability, but still that same missile quality there, then definitely go for some of them. Then we have Chaldean light infantry with spears and shields. So basically forgoing that extra range ability, as we can see there, but the points drop off even more. Chaldean or Elamite light infantry with bows. So here we're foregoing the combat ability just to go back to the ranged ability. So your clash and sustain drop off quite significantly there, but you get your long range ability back for 21 points a unit. And as we saw up above in the description there, you can do something what's called basically like your infantry with bows here. They can ride like little, again, pseudo chariot carts, basically can be kind of hauled around in those. So this just gives you more mobility, but adds some cost to the unit again. So cool to see. Definitely would require some testing to see if they're necessarily all that effective. Then, interestingly here now, you can bring in some Greeks, which we haven't gotten to yet, obviously, in time. We did look at the Mycenaeans, but our classical Greeks are definitely coming up here soon. But you get Greek or Lydian heavy infantry hoplites with long spears, only one unit. Not so much a thing yet, but again, you can already see the quality of the Greek infantry there compared to the contemporary, the Babylonian stuff here. 7 and 7, nothing really on ranged. That's not what they're about. 4 up morale save and phalanx for 32 points a unit. So you only get access to one. You might as well take it. This is definitely going to be a solid unit for you. Aramaean or Chaldean skirmishers with javelins, again, the usual small unit skirmisher thing, so just take a look at that. Definitely has their place in the army. Same thing with the next unit. Slings or bows with sling range, basically as small units again. You get that long range firepower for roughly the same amount of points. So again, these all definitely have a good spot in the army. You do get Arab camel riding light cavalry armed with bows as small units. Again, a little bit of punch on that clash value there, so maybe good for dealing with other small units, skirmisher type units, that stuff. Try and inflict some casualties. And then they do have that solid long range ability too, with a t-shirt save, as we call it. And they do have feigned flight, but you do pay 21 points for the unit there. Now we start getting into some of the punch again on the cavalry side. So Babylonian medium cavalry with spears and bows. Clash of 8, really solid for getting that damage in. Drops off pretty significantly though in further rounds. Really good range though overall with their bow abilities. 5-up morale save, and yeah, no other special rules, but it's a solid shock unit there, especially if you can maneuver and get that charge off. Scythian horse archers as small units. So again, don't expect much in the combat side there, but really solid range. And then they have the Parthian shot special rule. And all that for 19 points. And then you have Elamite light cavalry with spears and bows. So compared to the medium cavalry up above, what's really different? Better ranged abilities at the expense of weaker morale save, and a little bit weaker on the clash value, but still compared to, again, a lot of the other forces out there in infantry, that 7 on the charge is still pretty respectable, and should definitely be something that should cause concern for the enemies there, especially with these guys rampaging around with shooting bows and stuff like that. And they still have the same sustained value as the medium cavalry, so they'll be right in the same spot. It's just that weaker armor a little bit, and only 1 point cheaper there. So they definitely have their place. And then last but not least, the Babylonian Urartian 4-horse heavy chariots with crew armed with bows, spears, and javelins. So kind of like we saw with the Assyrians, they're kind of like super heavy chariots here. Again, the chariots have kind of gone from light, rickety units in some of our earlier lists that we looked at to now these basically battlefield tanks. This is kind of like roughly golden age of chariots here. So clash of 9, so definitely going to be pretty scary if you're on the receiving end of that. It does drop off quite significantly, of course, after that, but 9 is definitely scary. And then all the while still, top-notch ranged fighting ability, and that just awesome 3-up morale save. No other special rules. They don't really need it. They're already packing a hell of a punch. 33 points for the unit. So again, you can have up to a quarter of your units in the whole army be cavalry and chariots. I would, certainly max out on them. That is definitely where you're gonna have all that mobility and firepower, not just range, but also that awesome close combat ability in your list. So use that to your advantage, and then let your medium infantry sort of hold the line and work its way around, especially with the skirmishers, while your cavalry are out on the flanks cleaning up, and then hopefully harassing enemy flanks and rears and stuff like that, and let your infantry, like I said, hold the line and all that. And then last but not least, again, the commanders here, solid leadership of 8 across the board. No fancy special character upgrades or anything else like that, just solid leadership 8. So again, much like the Assyrians, maybe not quite as loaded as far as just awesome units with special rules and stuff as the Assyrians, but still a really strong list and fun to collect. And like I said, if you were probably already collecting the earlier Babylonians and played those, you should be able to reuse a lot of your models. So basically get another force to try out here with maybe some modifications, some of the newer unit types. So overall, another fun a faction to collect. Definitely fun to play against their other contemporary adversaries from that rough time period there. And as we can see, the Greeks are slowly creeping in here with that one basically mercenary unit that the Babylonians have access to here. So again, we're working our way forward into more of that classical antiquity period here. So we are still basically 7th to 6th centuries. So we'll start dipping into the Greek world here more and more as we move forward, and then the Romans and so on and so forth as we approach the end of the BC period. But yeah, Neo Babylon, definitely cool. and worth checking out. So if you like that video, hit us with a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and then we'll have more Hail Caesar content coming for you guys soon.